I'm Adi Torfstein, an associate professor at the Institute of Earth Sciences, Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and at the Interuniversity Institute for Marine Sciences of Eilat. Eilat is fun, and you can see the background behind me. It looks neat. And essentially, in a sentence, what I do is to study climate change using the history of the oceans and geochemical compositions of seawater and sediments. What this all means is that when we discuss climate change and global warming, we have all these ideas about what will be the situation in 50 years and 20 years, and how warm it's becoming and how awful things are becoming. But really, we don't know how we know this is changing. How do we know the world is changing? The only way we do know this is by looking at the baseline, at the reference. And the reference we look at is the geological reference. So if you look at the ocean behind me, this side, the ocean records in its bottom, it records millions of years of history of the oceans and of global climate, which we can then use to interpret future patterns. And the way we do this is to take a ship out to sea, recover from the bottom of the ocean sediment cores, these particles that slowly settle down to the bottom of the ocean. And as we take them out, we analyze their composition. And by doing so, we can decipher the conditions of the ocean, the climate that existed at the time of deposition of these particles. And this allows us to identify, for example, glacial cycles, heat waves, hyper-arid episodes, and so on and so on. And what we do know is that globally, or over the last, let's say, million years, Earth has evolved through glacial cold cycles and warm interglacial cycles. And we know each area of the world reacted differently to these cycles. What I mean by this is that in Eilat, just behind me, during extremely warm episodes, this area, which is now yellow and desert and hyper-arid desert, actually received more rain coming from the south, coming from tropical latitudes, compared to glacial cycles, which were colder globally. But these glacial cycles caused, for example, Israel and California to be extremely more wet than today. So the impact of climate change, although it's big, and it can be big, it's also different in different parts of the world. And this is essentially what we study. And one last thing I'll add is that in order to know or to be confident about the way we decipher the history of the oceans, the composition of these small particles, in order for us to be confident about that, we need to tackle the question of what happens to these particles as they settle down the water column. Because many things happen. Fish eat them, they decompose, new particles are formed. So this is what we call the signal transfer from the modern environment to the geological record. And this is one of the main things we do in Eilat. We study this signal transfer in order to have, I would say, a better key to unlocking the past here, but mainly globally. So I'm happy to have talked to you, and hopefully we'll see you soon, and happy Passover to everyone. Shalom.